Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of StarCraft Inc. I just finished bitching about people bitching about me. So, to lighten the mood, I'm going to give you an MLG game between JulyZerg and RootKiwikaki. Now, these two players are both phenomenal and both known very well by the people who play their race. JulyZerg is a very aggressive Zerg. He doesn't play the standard macro style that a lot of Zerg play. He's very aggressive early game and puts his opponent off balance, and that's what allows him to get his second and third bases, rather than sitting back and droning hard in somewhat of an Idra style. RootKiwikaki was formerly known for his mothership play with the Archon Toilet, one of the first players other than like Liquid Huck to really start doing that things. RootKiwikaki and Liquid Huck are both from Canada. Kiwikaki is from the French-speaking part of Canada, Quebec, and he is a fantastic Protoss player. Although it seems he's supply blocked himself. What is he doing? Oh, there's his pylon down there. But yeah, no, he is very, very gifted, and he is also known for basically trolling the ladder by pretending to be what's that guy's name? That World of Warcraft troll. I can't remember the guy's name. Athene Wins. He was pretending to be Athene Wins and got rank 1 on the ladder for Athene, and Athene took all the credit. So RootKiwikaki is pretty popular for that as well. And that's in those games when he played as Athene Wins. That's when we saw a lot of his mothership play. He was just plain trolling. But now the Archon Toilet does not exist, so I haven't really watched his game since. So I'm curious to see how his game has evolved or changed, or really what's different. But we do see him going for some type of Forge Fast Expand, where over here his probe is blocking the natural. However, like I said, it's not really like JulyZerg to go for a Fast Expand. So be interested to see how he's playing this out. His pool is almost done. He's almost at 100 gas. He will be able to start researching speed almost immediately, and we probably will see him pull his drones off gas. Yes, right there. He's got a little bit of extra gas, and he's leaving one harvester on there. He's probably going to say, oh no, he's pulling it off. I'm curious. Yeah, he's going to leave one on there. There we go. He's probably saving up 4 layers with one harvester. But we do see this rallied to right here. And how many lings is he going to be making? 2, and we see 6 lings right off the bat, and a queen on its way. This looks a lot like a build that the SSN clan uses in our team games, and we might do a tutorial for that too. We're thinking about making an entire series about some of the very powerful builds that the SSN clan uses on the ladder and on team games. We don't really consider team games laddering. Although some people do take them pretty seriously, anytime we're playing a team game, it's pretty much jokes. We practice against each other, and a lot of us have really strong ones rankings, but team games are just, you know, to joke around, to talk on Skype. And it looks like Kiwikaki doesn't really have a full wall off. He does have a cannon, but those Zerglings are going to easily run by. He needs to wall this off quickly. There he does go and seal that off. However, there is a way to run around, I believe. No, maybe not. Not on this map. What are we going to see? Those Zerg just seem to... Oh, God. We're seeing a Baneling bust from JulyZerg. He's going to try to bust through here. Will he be able to do that? I have no idea. This looks like a pretty sound wall with mostly production facilities. They have a boatload of health. 400 and 400. That's 800. And then can they smash through? We're going to get a leak on the cannon. He can't fill that space anymore. Both Banelings and Zerglings getting through. And Kiwikaki is going to lose this already. And if he doesn't lose it, I'll be amazed. There's like nothing he can do. He tried to come off and re-wall here, but the Lings get into his main again. And this is GG for Kiwikaki. How can he lose this already? Oh my goodness. So GG from the Protoss player. He was going to wall that off again, but wow, very fast game. You know what? There's a second game. I'll cast that. I'll give Kiwikaki a chance to redeem himself. Let's go to that game now, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for sticking with us, ladies and gentlemen. This is game 2 between RootKiwikaki and JulyZerg. Now, like I said in game 1, JulyZerg is a very aggressive Zerg player, which you saw in game 1, where he Ling attack then into Baneling Bust, a Forge Fast Expand from RootKiwikaki. And if you are a Zerg having trouble with Forge Fast Expanding, and you find that, well, I'm just going to expand too, you'll find that the Protoss can build a much more powerful army off 2 base than you can, because their units are more expensive than yours, but yours die easier, and there's a nice little timing window where he can smash into you, and your army will be bigger, but his army will be stronger, especially if he uses force fields. So an aggressive play like what you saw from JulyZerg is a very good way of dealing with that Forge Fast Expand. Another thing that Zerg often try to do is they try to smash into the Forge Fast Expand, and when it doesn't work, they keep trying. And that's a big mistake that Zerg players often make as well. So we did see him try to smash into that, but he was very successful, and a well-placed Baneling hit is the way to do it, and it's all in the timing. You don't want him to have sentry out to force field that, which that gives you tons of time, because if he's opening Forge, he's not going to have a Cyber Core for a long time, and you can really do some dangerous things to him. And we are seeing that pool. It went down not too long ago, so probably a 12 pool, maybe 12, 13. Anyway, yeah, just talking about the way the games play out, the Protoss versus Zerg matchup. There are a lot of interesting things. When you're scouting a Protoss player, you can tell a lot about what he's going to do by the amount of chrono on his Nexus. If you find that you get there and he's got a gateway down and he's got a cyber as well, if there is a lot of chrono on the Nexus, he is going to be 4-gating. But if there's no chrono like we're seeing here, although it'll be around now when he starts to save it up, but if you get there and you scout at around the 4-minute mark and there's no chrono on his Nexus, it means he's tacking. But if he's got lots of chrono, he's definitely 4-gating or going for some 3-gate. He's going to try to chrono out that warp tech. That's what that means. And when you're scouting a Zerg, what you really need to look at is the harvester count. If there's a low harvester count, there's a good chance that he's going to be doing some early Ling aggression. If there's a high harvester count, that means he could be going for some expansion play that is very standard of Zerg. But the thing that does give you the strong difference is whether he stays on his gas. He's paying for his speed right here, but he's not harvesting gas, so that rules out roaches. He's pulled his lings off the gas. He's also his harvesters, not his lings. It also means he's not typically going to go banelings either, and he's not going for early layer tech. So that says a lot. There's no gas harvesters. Now he's got one guy back on the gas. And that's something that both JulyZerg and Vile Spinishiwa do sometimes, is that single harvester to just slowly save for layer tech. And it's a very, very interesting way of doing it, because you get it slowly but surely and you get a lot of mineral income. And just when you've saved that up, that's the time to transition. They'll usually saturate both gases after that and then explode in tech. And it's very, very powerful. So opening the production tab here, sorry I didn't have that open already. I know that makes a lot of you cringe. We are seeing that 3-gate, and he's spending his chrono on the Cyber Core, but he's not quite on top of it. It's interesting that that's the case. He is chronoing out his econ now, so he's not too worried about that warp tech. We see now, if it was chronoed out all the way, warp tech would be done by now. It would be around 520 that a pro level player should be able to get chrono out. Now these are neutral bunkers, supply depots, sorry. And on the MLG maps, they do put things like rocks and bunkers there, so that players can't really cheese their way into an early victory with like a cannon wall right here. And if they do, just destroying that supply depot is a good way to, you know, get out, or it stops them from placing buildings there. And it's on every choke, as you can see. The supply depot's right here as well. And yeah, normally like 3 pylons could lock a Zerg in his base and stop him from fast expanding, and quite frankly that's unfair. So now they can just, you know, it'll take a lot more than 3 pylons, 4, 5, 6 pylons, or kill that. And you know, anyway, it nulls that early aggression. with buildings and cheesy stuff like that. MLG really MLG maps in general really favor long macro games. They're more interesting to watch. It really displays a better version of players' skills. I mean, a lot of players can cheese, and admittedly high-level players can cheese much better than low-level players. They have better micro, they can do other things at the same time, so they can macro as well as cheese, and it brings the game to a whole new level. But a macro game is where a lot of players shine, and it's more interesting to watch, like I said. So they are long maps with anti-cheese things like those supply depots. And that's all I really have to say about that. I'm surprised we're not seeing JulyZerg take his third. It would be a very greedy thing to do, but at this point he's not being opposed. He's slowly getting a small roach count, and roaches are actually pretty good against his army, seeing as how there aren't too many stalkers. Force fields will make things difficult for JulyZerg, but he's really starting to spit out those roaches. He's got 2 more. He's got Burrow on the way. No weapons upgrades yet, even though he does have that Evo chamber. But it's a good idea to have that Evo chamber just in case things like DTs show up, in case Void Rays show up. But he's got pretty good scouting. This Ling is getting a good free scout of the base, which is nice pickup for JulyZerg. And we do have these overlords spread out nicely so that if anything flies through this area, he will see it. So keep in mind that Zerg is very much the map control race. They're given all the tools to do that. Cheap, fast units to spread across the map, and even if they die, it's like 25 minerals per Zergling. A hallucinated Phoenix is Kiwikaki's version of scouting, which is fantastic, and it's dirt cheap. I mean, 100 for hallucinate, then the cost of a sentry. You know, and you might not get to do it if you use your early energy on the sentry for a force field, but I mean, sentries are never a bad idea to have, especially against Zerg. They're a fantastic tool, and you know, every race has their methods of scouting, and just like the scan on the command center, the hallucinated Phoenix is the Protoss version of that. So that is quite effective. I wouldn't attempt to use it to scare the Zerg into getting anti-air, because as you can see it's shooting and it's not doing any damage to the Zerg units, and a lot of pro Zerg will understand that that's the case. A lesser Zerg might not understand that, but so we did see a changeling come down for JulyZerg, but it was quickly spotted by RootKiwikaki, and he did snipe that down. A robotics bay is being placed. Do we have a spire on the way? We do have a spire on the way for JulyZerg, sorry, and that would have been a timing thing. He understands that right about now is when a standard 2-base robotics bay would go down, and he's getting the spire preemptively just in case he needs it. He's probably not planning on going into any kind of air right away, not until he's saturated his 3rd base, and that's not the case yet. His 3rd base is just finishing it, so Broodlords are not viable until he's got the econ of 3 bases. So now that Colossus are on the horizon, he is ready to create Corruptors to deny those. And so good preemptive play by JulyZerg. And right now it's pretty much a standoff. Neither player wants to push against each other. I think the army comp is in favor of Kiwikaki at this point with those Immortals and Force Field. They will be able to melt the roaches quite quickly, but the problem is the Zerg player is on 3 bases. He's going to be able to produce drones very quickly to saturate that. The only thing he's really worried about probably is larva, but it does look like he has a lot. So when these two exchange armies, he's got to do as much damage with this as he can, because it's not cheap for Kiwikaki to engage. And at that point, the Zerg, it's just up to the Zerg to remax or resupply his army quickly. Now this would be a good spot for force fields. Perfect force fields from RootKiwikaki. They aren't overlapping in any way. I guess there was one overlapping, but very nicely timed. However, the roaches will just escape down that 2nd path. So good choice from JulyZerg as well to not engage with those roaches, to try and just run them, because he did save more that way. And he wasn't going to do any damage against this army. I'm about to yawn. I always do that. But it's okay. I'm not dying. And it has nothing to do with the mono battles, I promise. I do not have mono. And we do see lots of Muta coming out, so he did plan on going air, I guess. Which, Muta are great too. They keep the Protoss player off balance and out of position. While the Protoss is scrambling to defend his base, he has to split his army up. 1 to the natural and 1 chunk to the main. and that gives the roaches the opportunity to do some damage over here. So good playstyle by JulyZerg, being very aggressive, being very pesky, not playing that very simple build up a massive stupid army in 1A. Now the Protoss player cannot defend his third, which is so frustrating, and he's actually just going to come up here. He's going to break the rocks from the looks of it. Yes, he will, and he's going to push against the base, and that is a very good decision from the Protoss player. He's out-supplied. Oh, here comes the Zerg to the Protoss natural, which is a good decision there as well, saving his base from what could have been something very dangerous, and that gives him time to just feed this army count. Now RootKiwikaki has caught up in supply actually. I think he did manage to snipe a few mutant. Now look at this. This army is going to be able to flank and surround Kiwikaki's army. Roaches from behind. No, it might just smash into his base. I don't know how he's planning on doing this. Look at this army for JulyZerg. This is so tense. RootKiwikaki is trying to get cannons down, but his army is up here. This Colossus is stranded. Force fields go down to avoid taking too many of those Lings and Banelings to the face, but the mutant from the back, Lings from behind. Force fields are saving him right now. Guardian Shield to reduce damage from the Muta, but this army is getting swallowed, attacked from all sides, and the Muta are putting so much splash damage on the Stalkers. They cannot fight the Muta and the Lings and the Banelings and the Roaches. There's so much variety, and really the army from Kiwikaki could not deal with that. He needs Blink on his Stalkers in order to combat those Roaches, and this is a bad situation for Kiwikaki as the Zerg player is on 3 bases, and with the production style of Zerg, he will be able to resupply and refuel an army faster than RootKiwikaki will be able to. We are seeing 1-1 on Root's army, and JulyZerg with 1-0, so upgrades are in the favor of Protoss. However, if you look, they only do 15 damage to armored, whereas these Roaches, they're doing 18 damage to armored with a faster attack speed, and they are faster than Stalkers on creep. So without Blink, RootKiwikaki is at a huge disadvantage. Baneling smashing into those Stalkers, doing so much damage, crashing into those cannons, and RootKiwikaki is forced to pull his line. Will he lose his natural? Regardless of whether he loses it or not, he is not mining from it, and that is tremendously disadvantageous for Kiwikaki. And yes, I did just use the word disadvantageous, and it was hard to say, and I won't say it again, as this looks like it will be the end of this game. However, Colossus do come out for RootKiwikaki. However, he will not be able to micro it to safety, as the Roaches are just going to throw themselves at the Stalkers. They do not care if they die, as they will be able to replace themselves so fast. Half of them going after this Colossus, half of them going into the line. Great play by JulyZerg. This is why he has won tournaments in the past. Stalkers trying to deal with the Zerg, and they can't be everywhere at once. There is no production here for RootKiwikaki. I think he's only on 4 gateways and one Robo Bay. I think that is the huge problem here, but he was spending all his cash, so I don't know what else he could have done. A quick tech switch to Lings as the Roaches burrowed to safety, and Stalkers cannot deal with the Lings. Roaches just tearing through everything. This is GG from RootKiwikaki. JulyZerg takes the MLG series 2-0 against Kiwikaki. So the Canadian Protoss has fallen to the Zerg, and this is another episode of StarCrafting. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I did. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.